Reynolds was there in almost every important moment of Queen Charlotte, standing close to King George, whispering advice, keeping secrets, and showing a loyalty that felt unshakable. Yet when the story shifted into the Bridgerton timeline, he was gone. No explanation, no farewell, nothing but silence. Fans have been asking ever since, what really happened to Reynolds, and why does the show never tell us? Reynolds is more than a simple servant in Queen Charlotte. He is the king's secretary, yes, but in truth he is also his shield. Whenever George struggles with his mind, whenever the court whispers about his condition, Reynolds is there to manage the damage. He arranges meetings, covers mistakes, and carefully steers the court's attention away from the king's pain. He does it with calm precision, but beneath that calm there is always the weight of duty. To the outside world he looks like just another face in the palace, yet to George he is the invisible hand holding everything together. His loyalty is not only to the crown, but also to the man behind it. Reynolds knows George's truth, the moments of weakness that others never see, the nights of confusion, the sudden bursts of fear. He protects those moments because he understands what is at stake, the stability of the kingdom itself. Without Reynolds, George's struggles might have broken through the walls of secrecy long before Charlotte arrived to stand beside him. In many ways, Reynolds is the silent architect of the king's image, the one who keeps the mask intact even as the cracks grow deeper. But Reynolds is not defined only by duty. His heart, too, becomes a hidden story within the show. His relationship with Brimsley, Queen Charlotte's right hand, is one of the most unexpected and moving elements of the series. Where others see only two loyal attendants moving in the shadows, the audience catches glimpses of something more, a touch too long, a glance filled with unspoken longing, a dance shared in secret halls. Their bond is fragile, forbidden by the rules of their world, yet it feels genuine and deeply human. Reynolds, who carries so much weight for George, finds rare moments of comfort in Brimsley's presence, and Brimsley, who carries Charlotte's burdens, finds the same in him. Together they mirror the king and queen themselves. To people bound by duty yet yearning for personal happiness, Charlotte and George find a way to fight for their love in the open, while Reynolds and Brimsley must keep theirs locked away in silence. This contrast is one of the reasons fans connected so strongly to Reynolds' character. He embodies sacrifice, not just in his loyalty to the king, but in the way he gives up his own chance for a life lived in freedom. And that sacrifice, more than anything else, makes his disappearance later in Bridgerton feel so painful, as if the show has taken away not just a character, but an unfinished story. Reynolds was everywhere in Queen Charlotte, always in the shadows yet always vital. He moved like a ghost through the palace halls, arranging meetings, carrying secrets, standing beside Brimsley whenever Charlotte and George faced their trials. Then suddenly, when we step into the Bridgerton timeline, he is gone. Not a mention, not a memory, not even a whisper. For a character so central, this silence feels like a thunderclap. Viewers instantly noticed, and that absence became one of the biggest unanswered questions of the series. The most haunting moment comes when we see older Brimsley dancing alone in the moonlight. It is not just a scene of quiet beauty, it is a wound. In earlier episodes, that same dance belonged to him and Reynolds, bodies close together, steps in rhythm, hearts speaking where voices could not. But in the present, there is no partner, only empty space in Brimsley's arms. The camera lingers, making sure we see what is missing. The silence around Reynolds is not an accident. It is a choice made by the writers to leave us unsettled. And that choice works. Audiences were left with dozens of questions. Did Reynolds die? Did he leave? Was he forced to abandon Brimsley for duty or survival? The fact that nothing is said gives weight to every possibility. In a world where most characters' lives are tracked with detail, Reynolds slips through the cracks, and that slip makes his absence louder than words. The show does not tell us what happened, and in that space theories began to grow like wildfire. What makes the mystery even sharper is the contrast with Charlotte and George. Their love, though burdened and painful, is still celebrated and remembered. They are shown together in the twilight of their lives, still bound by love even after years of struggle. But Brimsley and Reynolds are denied even that closure. One couple finds a way to endure, the other fades without explanation. It feels deliberate, as if the show is reminding us that not every love story in history is allowed to survive. The disappearance of Reynolds is more than a gap in the script. It is a wound in the heart of the story. Fans see Brimsley's loneliness and immediately think back to the devotion Reynolds gave, the way he never once failed the king, the way he found stolen moments of happiness with the man who stood beside the queen. To lose him without explanation is to feel the cruelty of history pressing down on them. It makes Brimsley's character even more tragic because his loyalty is absolute, yet his happiness seems to have been stolen away. The silence is why the mystery of Reynolds has become so powerful. By not showing us his end, the show forces us to carry the weight of that absence. Every theory becomes a reflection of the pain fans feel watching Brimsley dance alone. The story of Reynolds is unfinished, and that unfinished quality makes him unforgettable. When a character disappears without a trace, silence often speaks louder than words. With Reynolds, that silence has become a canvas where fans have painted their own theories, each one filled with both heartbreak and longing. None of them are confirmed by Netflix, but each feels possible because of how carefully the show left the question open. Let's explore the most powerful explanations that fans believe. The first theory is the most tragic. Reynolds may have died in a time when medicine was fragile and the burden of duty was heavy. It is not impossible that his life ended earlier than Brimsley's. This would explain the scene of Brimsley dancing alone, arms moving through empty space as if remembering the steps he once shared with the man he loved. Death would be a cruel answer, yet it would also be honest to history. Love in that time, especially love between two men in silence, was fragile and often cut short by forces beyond their control. The second theory shifts from tragedy to sacrifice. Some believe that Reynolds did not die, but instead was forced to walk away. His duty to King George may have demanded all of him, leaving no room for his bond with Brimsley. Perhaps he chose loyalty over love, disappearing into the shadows of service while Brimsley carried on beside Queen Charlotte. In this version, Reynolds is alive but lost, chained to his responsibilities in a way that makes reunion impossible. The sadness here lies not in death, but in separation that never healed. The third theory imagines a darker truth, that their relationship was discovered and broken apart by those who held power. In the royal court, appearances are everything. The romance between two attendants, no matter how quiet, could have been seen as dangerous or scandalous if discovered. It might have been crushed quickly, forcing Reynolds to leave under pressure. This theory explains the silence as intentional erasure, a decision by the palace to protect its image by tearing apart two men who only wanted to share stolen moments of happiness. And then there is the final theory, the one that many fans hold onto, that Reynolds and Brimsley did not truly end, but were separated in ways the show has not yet revealed. Some believe Reynolds is alive, perhaps retired in secret, perhaps still serving the crown from a distance. This belief is fueled by hope, the hope that one day the writers might bring him back. In another Bridgerton story, it is less about proof and more about yearning, because fans who watch their love blossom do not want to accept that it ended in silence. Each of these theories carries weight, and each reflects the emotions the audience feels when watching Brimsley move through life alone. Death, duty, discovery, or distance, all of them could be true, and all of them hurt in their own way. That pain is exactly why the mystery of Reynolds remains one of the most discussed elements of Queen Charlotte. It is not just about what happened to him, it is about why the story chose not to tell us, leaving us to fill the silence with our own voices. Sometimes the answer to a mystery is not in the story itself, but in the way the story is written. With Reynolds, the silence is not only part of the plot, it is also a decision made by the creators behind Queen Charlotte. In interviews, both the cast and the producers have spoken carefully about why his fate was left untold, and their words give us important clues. Hugh Sachs, the actor who plays older Brimsley, explained that the absence of Reynolds in the later years was no accident. He said it was meant to show the sacrifices people like Brimsley and Reynolds had to make, serving their royals with complete devotion, often at the cost of their own happiness. That one scene of Brimsley dancing alone was created to carry decades of heartbreak, a life of loyalty with no partner left at his side. It was not a mistake in the script. It was a deliberate choice to remind us that not every love in history was allowed to last. Shonda Rhimes, the creator, has also hinted that leaving Reynolds' fate unanswered was intentional. She wanted to reflect reality, that queer love in that era often had no clear record, no happy ending written in history books. By not giving us closure, the story mirrors how these relationships were hidden, silenced, and erased. It leaves viewers feeling the pain of that silence, the way Brimsley feels it, carrying on with dignity yet forever marked by loss. The actors who played Reynolds and Brimsley in their younger days also spoke about their roles. Freddie Dennis, who brought Reynolds to life, described him as someone who was always in control, yet deeply vulnerable when it came to Brimsley. Sam Clement, who played young Brimsley, said that their romance was never meant to be a side note, but a mirror to Charlotte and George's own struggles. Where the royal couple fought publicly for love, Brimsley and Reynolds had to fight in silence, and sometimes silence wins. What makes this behind-the-scenes perspective powerful is the way it blends truth with fiction. On one hand, Reynolds is a character created for television, but on the other, his absence speaks for countless real people who lived in shadows, whose love stories ended without recognition. The showrunners chose not to answer the question because the unanswered pain itself is the answer. By pulling back the curtain on the creative choices, we see Reynolds not just as a missing character, but as a symbol. He is the embodiment of love, sacrificed to duty, erased by history, yet remembered by those who still care. That is why his disappearance hurts so much, and why fans continue to ask the question with such passion. The silence around Reynolds is not just a gap in the story. It is a wound that changes how we see Brimsley and how we feel as viewers. When the camera shows Brimsley dancing alone in the garden, it is not only a moment of loneliness, it is a lifetime compressed into a single image. That one scene carries the weight of years of service, years of love in secret, years of sacrifice that left him standing without the man who once held his hand. Fans felt that pain instantly. Across social media, the image of Brimsley spinning with no partner became a symbol of loss, and the questions flooded in. Where is Reynolds? Why is Brimsley alone? And why did the story not give them the same hope it gave Charlotte and George? The absence of Reynolds created a storm of emotion because it reflected something real, that not all love stories survive, and not every couple is given the chance to grow old together. This is why the emotional impact of Reynolds' disappearance is so powerful. His absence is not just about him, it is about Brimsley's entire character. We watch him remain loyal, graceful, and strong, but beneath that strength there is a loneliness the audience can feel. He gave everything to the Queen, yet in return, he lost the one person who gave him comfort. That contrast makes him one of the most tragic figures in the series. The scene also struck a chord because of how it mirrors reality. Many viewers, especially those who understand the struggles of hidden love, saw their own history reflected in Brimsley's empty arms. They saw the heartbreak of relationships broken by time, by duty, or by the cruelty of society. In that moment, the show was no longer just fiction. It became a mirror of real pain carried by countless people through the centuries. And yet, the mystery also gives the story its depth. Because we do not know the truth, we are left to imagine it. Some imagine Reynolds watching from afar. Some imagine him gone forever. Others dream that they might meet again. Each theory is fueled by hope or grief, and both emotions keep the story alive in the hearts of the fans. If Reynolds had been given a clear ending, the discussion would have stopped. But by leaving it open, the creators ensured that viewers would carry Reynolds with them long after the show ended. This emotional weight transforms Reynolds into more than a character. He becomes a symbol of love that was real yet unfinished, of sacrifice that left scars, of the cost of serving royalty while losing your own life in the process. Every time fans return to Queen Charlotte or Bridgerton, they remember him not because of what was said, but because of what was left unsaid. That is why his absence still hurts, and why people continue to ask the same question. What happened to Reynolds? The question of Reynolds is not only about one character, It is about what the show wanted us to feel. His absence is a reminder that not every story ends with closure, not every romance finds safety, and not every sacrifice is rewarded. By leaving the mystery open, the writers gave us something more powerful than an answer. They gave us the chance to carry that story forward in our own minds. When we look at Brimsley dancing alone, we do not just see loneliness. We see love that was once alive. The silence makes us ask, was Reynolds taken by death, or forced to choose duty over happiness, or erased by the harsh rules of society? We may never know, but that silence speaks to us because it feels real. It reminds us that history is filled with love stories that ended in the shadows, unrecorded, yet deeply felt by those who lived them. For fans, Reynolds has become more than a missing figure. He has become a symbol. He represents the hidden sacrifices of those who served royalty, the quiet heartbreak of those who could not love openly, and the truth that even in a world of crowns and thrones, some of the deepest wounds are the ones left unspoken. That is why the question still lingers, and why people still want his story to be told. So now the question is yours. Do you believe Reynolds died young, leaving Brimsley to mourn him in silence? Do you believe he walked away, choosing loyalty to the king over love? Or do you hold on to the hope that he still lives somewhere in the Bridgerton world, waiting for a moment when his story will return? Share your theory, because your voice is part of keeping his story alive. And if you want more deep breakdowns of Bridgerton and Queen Charlotte, make sure to follow, because this is only one of many mysteries hidden in this world of love, sacrifice, and secrets. Reynolds may not appear again on screen, but his shadow remains across the story of Queen Charlotte. His absence is as loud as his presence once was, and that silence has kept him alive in every discussion, every theory, every memory shared by fans. Sometimes the strongest impact is not in the answers we are given, but in the questions that remain. Brimsley's lonely dance is more than a scene. It is a message. It tells us that some loves are remembered only in silence, that some sacrifices are never rewarded, and that some stories end not with words, but with echoes. Reynolds represents all of that, and that is why he has not been forgotten. So the mystery remains with you. What do you think truly happened to Reynolds? Was he taken too soon, forced to give everything for duty, or simply hidden away by the cruel reality of the time? Whatever your belief, one thing is certain: his story still matters, because it speaks to something larger than one character. It speaks to the truth of love, loss, and sacrifice. If you want more deep dives into the untold stories of Bridgerton and Queen Charlotte, stay with us, because we will continue uncovering the secrets that live in the shadows of this world. And now, tell me in the comments, what is your theory about Reynolds?